All right, everyone, welcome to our OTF Coding Connections kickoff. We are so excited because we've had ups and downs around this project, as you may imagine, and it's been a bit of a stress, but we're just so glad that you are all here. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm just going to present. All right. So one of the things that we thought about in our time together is that normally we would acknowledge the land and First Nations peoples in our midst where we were, but now we're in all different spots. We're all in different places. So what we thought was, as facilitators, we would go to an app that we've been using called Whose Land, where you can search for different kinds of land acknowledgements around different places on Turtle Island and in Australia as well. And one that we have, we realize that it is in Treaty 3 territory, but we're going to open with a poem from Lena Recollet. And we've thought that we could all mindfully think about the lands we're on and our native peoples from each of our areas, but we might share this one by video for everyone. So we'll start with that.
To the original caretakers of this land of which we stand, Toronto to Toronto, the meeting place, and to all that was here thousands of years before us, to the Wendat First Nations, the Wyandot First Nations, and to their allies, the Anishinaabe, currently known as the Mississaugas, residing on New Credit, Mississaugan by the big river mouth, and to the peace that was made between the Three Fires Confederacy and the Six Nations Confederacy, the Haudenosaunee. That's where this name comes from. Toronto to Toronto, the meeting place where the trees meet the water, and to the revitalization of Indigenous languages, and to wampum belts, purple and white wampum belts, the dish with one spoon wampum belts, the covenant chain wampum belts, the friendship agreement, and to wampum belts that extend beyond here, red, green, and blue, because as long as the grass grows, as long as the rivers flow, as long as the sun rises and sets, miigwech, 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 miigwech.
So if you haven't checked out that app, it's created by Taking It Global. And in my journey around truth and reconciliation, it really helps me wherever I travel. I can get a notification on my phone about what community I might be in and what treaty territory I'm in. And the purpose of the app is to start a dialogue around why we honor the lands that we're on as we gather to learn. So we've really enjoyed using it. Okay, so what we would like you to do is to start by letting us know your name, your teaching assignment, your school, and where you're from in the chat so we can start with some introductions. And Lindy, I wonder if you want to start with introductions for our team that's facilitating. Would that be okay?
Sure, that would be great. I also am going to take a minute and just introduce Anne Binet-Roy, who is the president of OTF and who has kindly joined us. Anne is also president-elect of AEFO. So I know we have quite a few Francophone members who are on the session today. So happy to know that Anne is here with us. And I don't know if you wanted to say just a very quick hi, and then I'll introduce myself.
Good, absolutely. Thank you, Lindy. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time just to say thank you for everybody for submitting, your projects. And I know that Lindy had spoken to me about the wonderful things that were coming in this process. And I know that Peter and Brenda probably had difficulty making decisions on some of those projects because teachers are super creative and have great ideas. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know these projects a little bit more. And thank you again for taking the time. It's really important for the profession, for yourselves, your colleagues, and the students of Ontario as well. So hope all this goes well. I'm sure it will.
Thank you so much, Anne. And my name is Lindy Amato. I am Director of Professional Affairs at OTF. And Anne is exactly correct. It was really difficult to choose these projects, but you all have fantastic ideas, and we're really excited about getting going and happy that we're able to do a virtual launch, if not a face-to-face launch, but still very optimistic that we'll be able to meet each other face-to-face later on in the projects. So thanks so much, Brenda and Peter, and I hand it back over to you.
Great, thank you. So I'll go next. My name is Brenda Sheri, and I am a 32-year or so educator from Ontario, and I just rewired from my work at Upper Grand District School Board last June, and I'm honored to be working with Peter and taking it global to bring this project to life. And our love for TLLP, I guess, is really what brought us to be thinking about this project. So we are just thrilled that all of you are here, and you know, really excited to get going. So thanks for being here.
Hello, I'm Peter Skillen. She's a youngster. I'm going into my 50th year of being an educator. I started teaching grade 1 pre-Velcro. That's my claim to fame. And I'm now project manager for Code to Learn, with Taking It Global, the organization that has made this project possible for the Ontario Teachers Federation and for all of you. And I started teaching kids grade 1's coding, believe it or not, in 1977. So big history of it. And it's not coding I love as much as the learning that comes with coding. That's it for me. Well, I guess I'm going over that next slide. Okay, so Code to Learn is a federally funded project from the Canadian government under the Can Code initiative. And it's Taking It Global is the not-for-profit that put the proposal in on our behalf. And we have a partner, we have a couple of other partners, LCSI, Seymour Papert's company from Montreal, and Seymour developed the first coding language ever for kids, and Fair Chance Learning is a partner, Cisco is a partner, and C21 is a partner. And we thought we'd just address a couple of the questions that we received over the last week and a half or so in regards to Microworlds Junior and do we have to use links? So in the proposal, in the request for proposals, we tried to make it clear, and perhaps we didn't do as good a job as we might have, that we would be using links and or Microworlds Junior because the funding for this project comes through that group. And but the reality is you can use links, but you can use other things in addition. So you might do some comparisons. Some things might suit, some kids might be better prepared to work with links or with other things that you'd like to use, or that, you know, whatever. With a Microworlds Junior, we won't be addressing Microworlds Junior specifically today in terms of skills, in terms of sort of the keystrokes of how to use it. But the reality is when you will learn, we'll go through a bit of links today in this short time we have together, and the skills are transferable. So the whole idea about breaking a problem into parts and some of those computational things, thinking skills, they're transferable. So not to worry. We're going to offer to those of you who are Microworlds Junior users in the primary grades, we're going to offer you an opportunity to have a hands-on session with us another time. So pick up the transferable skills today and enjoy what we're doing, and we can have more conversations about those issues as we go forward. How's that? Okay, Brenda, over to you. And
Michael might join us at some point, might he?
That's correct. I'll keep my eye open for him.
Yeah, Michael Quinn, who is CEO of LCSI that creates the Link software. So he might pop in and we'll watch for him. So if you haven't heard of Taking It Global before, they're the umbrella not-for-profit, as Peter mentioned, that is supporting the funding, the grant. And Whose Land is created by Taking It Global. Right now, under the umbrella of them, related to this CanCo grant, we have Code to Learn, our program that you're part of, and Create to Learn. Create to Learn has, and both of these programs have an at-home version right now, as well as connectednorth.ca. So I'm going to put that in the chat as we move forward, because if you haven't checked out some of these programs that are available, there are live sessions and recorded sessions, and you are invited to share these out to any of your students when you're doing your virtual learning in the next few weeks that are still left. So use them if you like the content. Peter, over to you.
Okay, just a reminder, folks, in the chat, make sure that you drop that panel, the to menu, down to all panelists and attendees. Some of you who may just have come on recently here are still just typing to all panelists. So you're only talking to Brenda, Lindy, Anne, and me. And I think your intention is to share your information with everybody. So all panelists and attendees. So Code to Learn has four major projects. One's under LCSI, and we'll detail that a little later. But you can see that's where the OTF funding kind of comes from, the project initiative. Fair Chance Learning, a little company, a company in Ontario, and that is doing for us large-scale district co-design of learning in Regina. TDSB received some funding to do large-scale initiative, and the College Board is developing a national computer science principles curriculum to roll out to educators at mostly a secondary school who do not who aren't computer science teachers. This is just a way of trying to get computational thinking and such things into the hands of more kids. This slide is mine too. So we, when we chose, no, back to, yeah, that's it. Code to Learn. We called our project Code to Learn, not Learn to Code. And we called this project for coding, for OTF, CodingConnections. What we'd like you to do in the chat is just type your thoughts about why we might have used those names. Some of it's kind of obvious, but there might be deeper understandings that will come out from you. And we'd like to know what resonates with you with those names. So what's in a name? What do these names mean to you? Fill that chat up for us with things for, don't forget to drop that menu down to all panelists and attendees, and we'll give you a couple of minutes just to type things in there. You can learn new things through code.
Peter, while people are doing that, Daniel was just asking whether the presentation will be available to everybody, whether the slides will be. I know we're recording the presentation, so that will be made available that day.
Yeah, we'll be making the slides available as well. So Melanie's saying coding is literacy. It's connected to not just computer science, but tech applications, says Heather. And Brent says it's coding as a vehicle for learning, not just learning to code. Connect to all areas of the curricula, says P008, and support learning in our 21st century environment, or 21st, yeah. Valerie, oh, I got cut off, I think.
Being purposeful from Jacqueline, not just coding for the sake of coding.
Right.
Creativity, connections.
Focusing on coding as a way to learn. And Tina, good point. Give students who struggle with just knowledge and understanding classroom tasks an opportunity to shine with coding. Remind me sometime to tell you about this young autistic lad whose teacher discovered a miracle in that child that was only revealed through coding. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had an opportunity to express it. integrated
lifelong learning.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these are competencies and dispositions I'm seeing. That's one of the things we love as well about the experience of coding for students.
And Sarah talks about connections being transferable and coding being transferable and applicable to many fields and definitely cognitive skills. Yeah.
And yes, we can post the chat as well, Daniel. Good point.
Yeah.
Designing your own learning.
Great.
Yes. Agency, right? Self-directed learning. Very good. Oh, see, there's a reason why these people were chosen for these projects. I can tell. It's like, woohoo, starting with that.
And
Awesome
we talked so much
stuff.
about agency, and we agree that agency is definitely a part of the ability for a student to be in charge of their own learning. But along with agency is required this, learning how to learn and needing to know how to learn. And in fact, those are the cognitive skills that somebody addressed. There you go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for sharing, everyone. So what we thought we would do, normally, like if we were face-to-face, we might have done kind of like a speed dating approach for you to get around and share your project with others in the room. We might have snowballed it. Who knows what we would have done in terms of getting us talking to each other. So we thought, okay, how are we going to get each other sharing and kind of get a sense of the community we have here? Like Daniel's saying, around making connections, networking with others. You know what your project is, but you don't know about the other people in the room here. So we're going to try this. What we'd like you to do with your team, or just by yourself if you're here on your own, is in a minute we're going to ask you to click a link that we're going to put in the chat to a slide deck. And on the slide deck is going to be a slide template that if you right click on it, you can duplicate the slide and sort of claim it as your own. You might change the background color or whatever, but people will be able to identify that it's your team slide. And because you're going to put some information on the slide, you're going to add your name. You're going to let us know a little bit about your project and what it's all about. So right now, I'm going to put that, unless Peter has already. Oh, you're awesome. He's already got it into the chat. So I'm going to click on it. So that I'm going to go there as well. And actually, I'm not going to go full screen. Let's just change my mind on that. Okay, so look at this. Do we need to say more? No, you're already at it. So we're going to give you a few minutes to describe your project and put also your social media contact information if you have that in there. And remember that this is a unique project because this is about your learning as a primary focus. Yes, there'll be some student learning, but you as a team, this is all about you for a change. So describe your project in that way. And if you get finished early, you can have a look at the work of others, read their projects. You might choose a comment widget there and add a comment to someone, or you can make, you could do that.
So we see some people are negotiating the slide number to get the team on the same slide. A good plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in the chat, yeah, that's a
little problem solving here to make that happen, but it'll work.
Yeah, we didn't want to designate all the ways to do this because that would have taken the 10 minutes we've got.
That's right. So we'll stop talking and let you do that.
Feel free to grab the mic too if you just want to say, hey, team, I'm on slide, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The slide numbers don't keep changing.
So the one to change is slide 2, which is now slide, I'm just trying to find the template, slide 9, right?
Yes, and all these slides will be available for viewing in the future because we realize we won't have the time today for you to have a look at what your other teams are doing, your colleagues in this adventure. So these will be a great resource for you.
So I'm trying to find the slide 2, Peter, the one that needs to be, like slide 1, nothing needs to be done with. Slide 2 was the one to duplicate. And it is now slide 9, correct?
I don't know, slide.
So I could delete.
Yes, I see it as slide 9 right now.
9, okay, so I'm going to delete current slide 2.
Oh, somebody's in there, no?
No, someone's in there. Don't delete it.
Yeah, I wouldn't delete it. See, it would be nice, eh?
Okay.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could lock slides, eh? Like you can in a column.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had to read the first slide. That's okay. We can delete them later when we see that there's no team information on them.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, so if you're looking for the template slide, it's slide 9. Except for the contact info, but they'll move that.
That's okay. It's all good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love seeing the variety in these projects. It's just going to be wonderful.
So one of the...
Hi.
Hi, Tina.
Do you see my blue background one?
Oh, I see.
I'm just going to mute Tina.
What number is your slide? 11? No.
Well, it's kind of, on mine it's saying 7, it's blue.
Get now, yes.
Is that where you were?
Okay, I am now.
I can't mute her. I can't mute her.
Supposed to make a copy.
It's Tina at the top. There we go.
Okay, thanks. That's okay. It's better than
that was our other option, right? Remember when I said,
yeah,
oh, yeah, we could just phone each other. That's what I would do.
So just while you're finishing this off, we may not actually get it finished off too well at this point today, but one of the reasons we wanted this project to happen was like I said, I've been with kids coding since '77, and through the '80s it was huge, and then it started up again in, you know, the early 2000s. But we're just seeing a lot of stuff that we would like to see people go really deeper and connect it with curriculum differently. And, you know, this is the opportunity for us to develop some good depth and great initiatives. So it's our passion.
And the other thing we'll do is transfer some of our contact information so that we've got this place, and we've got we'll make a document where you can connect with each other. And we've just got another activity that we'll do with this before we leave today. But like Peter says, do what you can do for now, and you can come back to it, and we'll send out the links later.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the time, Brenda, and understanding that we're,
Sure,
you know, a little off. But one thing we didn't discuss is how do we get people back?
yeah.
Over to Lindy.
Well, we have to just tell them that they should stop what they're doing, because otherwise they'll miss the most important information about their money and all about the
money.
really big pieces that they need to know about.
That's right.
Money.
That is
So
enticing.
The question is, they can come back to these slides and finish them up, right?
Anytime.
Yes,
Anytime.
they can.
So long as they keep the link.
Yeah, and we'll make sure we send the link out again.
Yeah,
Because the link will be on their slides. So as long as they have the main slide deck, they've got the link to these slides.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So as soon as you're ready to relinquish your screen and give me sharing, I will begin.
Yeah, so hopefully people can go back to their Zoom room, and I will stop sharing, and you may share.
If I can find how to share. Oh, there it is. And here, almost there.
You got it.
There we go. Well, I have the wonderful task of giving you the information that you're going to need to kind of get going on your projects. I know you've got lots of questions about some of the logistics, and I'm going to do my best to take you through the really important pieces, guys. The thing that you need to keep in mind is that we have those documents that I keep referencing that are on the OTF website. I sent the link both in English and in French in the email that we sent you about this meeting and in the reminder. So on each of the slides that I show you, you will see some document references, and you can look at those documents as I go along, or you can look at them afterwards. Everything you need is in those documents, and of course we will be available to answer questions. So I thought that I would begin by just letting you know that the most important thing is to begin with the end in sight. And this is a picture of the tulips outside my office at OTF. Aren't they gorgeous? This is last year, not this year. And whenever I see the tulips in the springtime, I always think, oh, I wish I had planted tulips. But of course, if you want to get tulips in the springtime, you have to have planted them back in the fall. And so it is with this project. You really have to be thinking about the end point and start doing a lot of project management planning at this point. So that's really, really important. If I could give you one good piece of advice, that would be it, is that you begin with the end in sight. I also like the adage which says, go slow to go fast. It's kind of like if you were writing a book. If you plan out all of the chapters, once you have that outline, it's going to be much easier to fill in everything that comes afterwards. So please do keep that in mind. So the big question for a lot of you has been around the grant payment and the EFT forms that we've sent out to you. So the important thing for you to know is that you will be paid in 3 installments. And the first installment is the biggest. It's the 60% payment. As you know, the grants are for a maximum of $5,000 each. And I know you will have provided a budget in the applications that you did for us. But as you do your own project management, You might find out that you need a little more money than what you had thought. So long as it's within the 5,000, we're good to give it to you. And so in fact, the 60% payment that you will receive right after this meeting is based on an assumption that you will be spending $5,000. We can adjust the future payments if you end up telling us, well, you really don't need 5,000, you only need 4,000. We will do that adjustment once we've received your interim reports. So the first installment, as I say, comes right away. The second installment of 30%, and that will be its approximate 30%, comes to you when you submit your interim reports. And we'll look at the date of that in a minute. And the final 10% payment comes when we receive your final report. Now, the EFT form we do not usually use. We're using this form as a method of getting money to you because of the COVID-19 restrictions right now. We didn't want anybody having to go into a bank. So EFT is basically electronic funds transfer. And if you have filled it out, that will enable us to transfer the money. If you've not yet filled it out, we can't transfer money to you. As I say, normally we might have given you a check and we could have just put that in the mail. That's not happening right now. A lot of questions that have come about the bank account that this money will go into. We recommend that you set up a dedicated bank account for the money just to keep it separate from the rest of your accounts. In some cases, I know people are doing the accounts through their school or school board. You do not have to do it through your school or school board. You can do it through your own personal account, but we do recommend, if it's, just because it's easier for your own accounting purposes, to create a separate bank account. So right now you might be receiving it into your personal account, but we really advise you to think about creating a second account if you can, that is just dedicated to your expenditures in this grant. And of course, you are going to be required to give receipts for all expenditures. Okay, so please remember, whatever you do purchase, and you can't purchase hardware, but any resources that you purchase, any release time even that you are going to cover for each other and for yourselves, you really have to have some kind of an invoice from the board that shows that that was the expenditure. I'm going to keep moving. Here are your important dates, and you will have access to these slides, but all of this information you see at the bottom of my slide there, it says reference document, project guidelines and requirements. In that document, which is on the OTF website, you can find all of these dates. So you have a place to go to it all the time, as well as the slide deck. And the important dates are all written down here. So we're going to hopefully be able to send the money to you next week. If you haven't filled out your EFT, or if you've had problems with that, please let us know. We can delay sending you the funding. In fact, we have to until we have your EFT. So whatever time you need, that just will determine when you'll get the money. We are planning, and this is a date you've not seen before today, or if you've looked in the documents, you will have seen it. This is a new meeting date that we've inserted, an additional online meeting, because originally we would have had our first face-to-face meeting in April, and we might have had our first online meeting now in May. Because we've moved this into a virtual launch, we want to give you another opportunity to come together, because you'll probably have some questions. So we've put in this online meeting on August 20th, towards the very end of the summer, and hopefully by then it will be clearer to us what is going on for school in the fall. Our second online meeting was planned from the outset. We said October 27th, and your interim report is due on November 30th. That means you'll have lots of time before the interim report is due if you have lots of questions. And I'm going to show you what's included in the interim report in a second. February 23rd will be our third online meeting. March 15th is final report due. And April 9th and 10th, we're hoping we can do an actual face-to-face sharing the learning summit. Since we didn't do this meeting face-to-face, we're hoping we can share our learning at a face-to-face gathering. So we'll see how that goes. A lot, of course, depends on what happens with COVID-19. So that's basically how the timing is laid out. Here are the details about your interim report, which is due on November 30th and which triggers the 30% payment that you will get. And again, at the bottom of the slide, you can see these are the project reference documents that we recommend that you look to, because your interim report is actually made up of several items. You have a project action plan, and you see I've said begin now. So you actually have an action plan that you have to create, and that will need to have been completed by November 30th. Not all your actions, but your plan has to be completed. You have an interim project report itself and an interim expense form. And the interim expense form includes the fact that you have to attach any receipts for expenditures. I'm going to go back up to number 1 over there, which is the project action plan. You have 2 excellent documents that will help guide in creating your action plan. Do not wait until November to do this. This is an activity you have to start right away. Those 2 documents are called Creating Your Project Action Plan, and there's a PowerPoint slide deck called Practical Project Management, which is a very detailed and really good guide for doing project management. So if you're not used to managing projects, these are great resources for you. You should also look at the interim project report template. That will tell you what kinds of things we're going to be asking you to tell us when you do your interim report. And of course, look at the interim expense form, because that will tell you how it's laid out and what kinds of expenses you're probably going to be having to show us proof of. The other thing that is great about the way we've set out the project is that in the interim report, if you realize that you've got to make adjustments, so let's assume that you thought at this point that you're going to use $4,000 or that you're going to spend money mostly on release time, and you realize as you start your project planning that you need to make an adjustment, this would be the time to do it. So when you submit the interim report, you can say to us, you know, originally we said we're going to spend the money here, but we've ended up deciding we'd like to spend the money there. These are kinds of adjustments you can still do up until November 30th. Okay? Moving on. I cannot see any of the questions. So Brenda, I hope you're watching it. Peter as well. Final report is due March 15th. And again, you will see that there are some reference documents. I just need to let you know that the final project report template and the reflection form are not yet ready. So they're not on the website, but I wanted to let you know what's in them. So the final project report will ask you a lot of questions about what you learned and what you did, the kinds of things you would expect. And we will have that ready for you when we meet in August. We also ask you in the final project report to provide 3 electronic artifacts, at least 3. If you have more, great. And these could be all kinds of things that are just artifacts of things that you did in your project. They could be photos of the kids learning, or they could be videos of the activities, links to resources that you produced, all kinds of things that capture the essence or your main accomplishments. The third thing that is in there is a reflection form, which is an individual reflection form. All the other things that I've spoken about are group-based, but there's one thing that we're going to ask you to do individually, and that is each person in your group will have to will fill out a reflection form. And that is just so that we can see from an individual point of view what your learnings were, what your experiences were of being involved in a project like this. And last but not least is the final expense report with all receipts and documentation of your expenditures. So, as I said, we're hoping we can do a Sharing the Learning Summit in April 9th and 10th. Please mark that date down. And that's pretty much it. I can take some questions now.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. I don't know if people want to just grab the mic if they want to expand, but Daniel's
I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay. Daniel's asking about not being aware of the grant total amount. That's the first part of his question. And then he says, Karen and I are not aware of our grant total amount. As for invoices, would they be billing us personally? Should we use a personal business?
Yeah, so you don't have to use a personal business. You can be billed personally. I understand that it's a little bit awkward, and this is the reason why we encourage people to have a separate bank account. Sometimes what some participants like to do in previous projects that we've run is that you could create a bank account that has 2 names on it, and so you have 2 signatories, so that when you're claiming your own release time, for example, you're not necessarily just paying yourself, but the other person in your team can help do that. But yes, the school board can bill you for the release time, even if it's your own release time. And you have to be behind the school boards because they're notoriously bad about doing invoicing for release time. And you need to tell them they must have it into you by March 15th. They can't wait, they can't delay on that. In terms of the total amount, when you say you're not aware of your total amount, I'm guessing that you don't know yet what your full expenditures will be. So this is the reason why you have to get right into your project planning. We will anyway send you 60% of $5,000. Somebody do that math for me. I should have known the number. I just didn't take the time to do it in my head. So you will receive that amount right off the bat, and then you can adjust what the rest of the money will look like. But the maximum that you can receive, the maximum that any project can receive is $5,000, and that's firm.
Yeah. And then we have another, thank you, Lindy. We have another question from Kelly. She hasn't registered for our EFT yet. What can I do if I don't have checks for my account?
Okay, if you don't have checks for your account, and I was hoping that question would come up. If you don't have checks for your account, you should still know what your account information is. I would really remind people that OTF is a very human organization. The person who we've asked you to email the EFT forms to is Azib, and she is very, very thorough. She will tell you exactly what you need to give her if you don't have a copy of a void check. Okay, so just give her an email, send her an email, and she will tell you exactly what you need. The void check is just because it makes it easier that you don't make mistakes in your account information, because everything is actually on a check. So, you know, she will ask you questions about making sure you've got your branch ID number, your account number all filled out on that form.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Melanie shares, you know, wondering about the distance learning in the future and making it challenging to roll out the plan. And she says, I guess just do the best we can. And that is exactly right. For all of our CAN code grants of this nature and others, basically we have activities that we report on, and we just talk about the challenges that come up. Especially there were some challenges definitely around COVID for our milestones, but if things change, we're on track, so we won't need to worry about that. But yeah, just document what happens, and we do the best we can, Melanie. That's exactly right. There's a French question. I could try reading it, but Lindy, maybe you would like to look at it. From Amy.
You need a bank account for the project, right?
Amy.
It's recommended that you have a bank account.
It's recommended. You need to put the money somewhere. If it goes into your own personal account, that's okay, so long as you're good at tracking. I'm terrible at tracking, and that's the reason why, for me personally, and also probably just for the optics of it, I prefer to sort of put things separately. And that's what we recommend if you can do it. Now, again, we're under circumstances that might make it difficult for you to set that up. If you don't have phone banking or if you don't have internet banking, it might be hard to set up a separate account. I also wanted to just say, Brenda, that, you know, it's not our expectation that there will be a lot of activities happening right now with students on this project. I think that people would be smart to use this time to really think through what they're hoping to do. And hopefully by the fall, when we go back to school in September, that's when things can really start rolling out. Some of you might be in a situation where you want to start trying things online, and that's okay too. But I'm just saying, if people cannot start their actual projects until the fall, we understand that as well.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, like we said earlier, one of the silver linings of what's happened is that we're going to show you later that we have a lot of content that we've created for at-home versions of Links workshops. So there are actually recordings and workshops and sessions that people can access anytime they want. So yes, you could be trying it out with students, virtually sharing things now, and just doing like a sandbox type of approach right now to do some learning for yourself and your students. So we'll share more about that later. Okay, that looks like all of our questions. We had a comment from Jacqueline that's good to note, is that if you bank online, there's often a button on your online banking that says ETF information, and it'll track your info of things you've been doing in that way. So thank you for sharing.
And also I noticed that Michael Quinn has joined us, and he's right at work responding to Almi in French. So c'est fantastique. Merci, Michael.
Très bien. Okay. And Daniel's asking for an email, Addie, to submit his EFT form.
Okay, it is in the first email that I sent to you. I can send that out again, but I'm going to put the email address right here so that you have it, because it's not a common name.
All right.
And I have put this, hold on, just sending it to everybody. And whoops, haha, that would not be good if I sent you the wrong information with it. Okay, her name is Azib, and she will help you if you have any problems. Okay?
Great. Thank you. Just lost my desktop for a second there, so now we are good. Thanks, Lindy. Any questions people can think of as we go, you can put it in the chat there. Right. All right. We're pretty much on track. That's amazing. All right. So yes, as you mentioned, Michael Quinn is here. He is the CEO of LCSI, which is the fantastic company that brings us LINX coding software. So we thought we would let you know sort of the context of LINX. Right now, we are working on our OTF project. That's one of the things we're doing. We have CanCode to Learn LINX sessions. We have a website that we're going to show you. As we said, we've been doing these at-home versions of our sessions. So there's a lot of content there that will be resources for you. We're also involved with a project with Dr. Ruth Beattie in Lakehead University, where she is researching Indigenous ways of knowing mathematics related to Indigenous art forms, and such as loom beading, finger weaving, beading in general. And we've added a layer this year where they are using LINX software to give students an additional method or modality to express their learning around that using LINX coding software. And one of our groups here, Bonnie Sears, you will see her card. She's exploring that with Dr. Beattie, and now she's exploring it also with her Code to Learn project. So that's pretty exciting. This software is uniquely Canadian. It comes out of Seymour Papert's work. He was on the board with LCSI, so we're very excited about that. It's available in French and Canadian English and Ojibwe, and we'll be extending that into other Indigenous languages. It's available free for Canadians across Canada. You just have to, your students and families just have to share the postal code in order to access it. We also have a pretty neat project where students can create stories and interactives and animations around Terry Fox. So that might be something you consider for the fall, since that's when we usually do that. We have templates and visuals inside the software that you'll see available there. So it's a pretty amazing software, exciting to use. I don't know if Michael wanted to share or just say hello. But we're going to move into some of the coding.
I just add, Brenda, it's also used by a nonprofit called Hacker Gal, and their mission in life is to drive more girls to careers in STEM fields, and the only coding platform they use is LINX.
Right, and that's something we'll have to share that resource out for folks as well. All right, thanks, Michael. Thanks for being here. Over to you, Peter.
Okay, I'll steal the screen from you.
Oh, yeah. You probably can do that.
I can.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to make some assumptions that we're just going to start from the beginning with LINX. We know some of you have some experience with coding. But we don't want, in this environment, it's very tough to accommodate everybody. So if you know some of the basics, obviously you can fly around and look at other stuff. So as Brenda said, it is free to Canadians. It's got a third-party login, so nobody captures your data from the LCSI site. And you'll get to this page once you've logged in. And today, honestly, you can, because of the time frame, you can either follow along on a separate screen and computer as we sort of put out in a message, or you can simply watch and enjoy and go back and find some of the resources and learn from there. And also, as we said earlier, those of you who are focusing on Microworlds Junior, it's made by the same company. It comes from the same Seymour Papert background. And by the way, Seymour Papert was invited by Jean Piaget to help Jean Piaget understand mathematics and learning in children. So if you haven't heard of Seymour Papert, he's kind of a guru, and he created the first version of Logo back in 1967, 65, around there. And so, these programs, these programming languages have evolved, and this one has evolved out of his work. You can log in if you have an account or not. Depends on how you want to manage today. We did say, as Brenda said, it comes in Canadian English, French, and Anishinaabe at this point. Things are looking good for, right, and there you see that. I'll go back to English. Things are looking good for a couple of other languages right now. Don't want to jump the gun, but Micmac may be one of those, actually. And over here, you'll see the help, and you can jump to user guides, and you can get all these various guides on getting going. We've got lots of activity cards that are about 20 to 30 pages long that are really quite gorgeous. Those are also available. Many of those are available also en français, one in Ojibwe, and they're also available on cancodetolearn.ca site in a different format, presentation style of things. You can go to all projects, in which case you'll see all the projects that are in the community. You can see various samples that are available inside learner mode. There's different ways to get to that, actually. If I'm over here on the home page and scroll down, you'll see the learner mode ones. And as you know, coding being a literacy is similar to reading and writing, in that when you read a lot of code, you'll better understand how to write lots of code.
Peter, can I jump in for a second?
Yep.
I know you aren't going to go into this in depth, but we do have some questions about how students will access and whether they need emails. So you probably want to just quickly describe that.
They need to have one of those ways of getting in.
Single sign-on.
Yeah, single
Google,
sign-on.
Microsoft. Yeah.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, and if you want to look at some games, same kind of thing. So we're going to start really simply today, and we're only going to focus, I'll take you through some geometry kinds of things. Yes, it's geometry, but for those of you who are saying, no, not math, honestly, you'll learn a lot of the basic commands, functions, computational thinking styles, and so forth here that you can apply into the other aspects. And I'll do some demo of some of the other kinds of things later, like game making and simulations and storytelling, and it's a coding language, so you can do all sorts of stuff with it. So I'll create a links project here. And I get to this page, and this is the work area. This is the command center. You can think of it as a scratch pad or a place to execute commands, type the command and have it happen in the work area. And this is where you do your programming, right? Your procedures, your programs over on the procedure pane over here. Up in the left-hand side is a toolbar, and this is where you type your project name. And so that's a very good thing to do right away because it does not autosave. So that's a good thing to do. So I'll just call it test for OTF, and then I'll click the up to the cloud button and save it. And now it's saved to the cloud to my account in my projects area. This at the top here beside the name is the share button, and that allows you to share it out to get embed code or a URL so that you can share it to somebody else in that fashion. The plus sign gives you the opportunity to add other turtles to your screen, or text boxes or buttons or sliders which control variables, hyperlink sounds, other pages because you can have multiple pages, or adding clip art that it comes from LCSI. The down from the cloud gives you an opportunity to, sort of like a navigator, to navigate to your new projects or all projects.
Can I just jump in too and say that Peter chose English, so that's why all of this is showing up in English. Had he changed his language right at the beginning, it would be all in French or Ojibwe.
Right, which would be a huge problem for me. Just saying, unfortunately. This is highlighted, so that means that the procedure pane is open. This is the clip art pane where all your clip art would reside. We haven't added any in from our plus sign or from our drives. So that's why it's not showing anything. This is the project tree, which, you know, isn't really an introductory thing, but it basically shows you what elements you have in your project. So in this case, I have one page and I have one turtle called T1. I'll go back to the procedure pane, leave it there. This allows you to do some settings like dark, dark, light, or a huge font, which I'll use for demo purposes. And I'll leave it on learner mode and autocomplete, and you'll see why in a minute. This will take you back, this button will take you back to my projects page, and this will take you to a help document. And this is a place where you can ask for help in different ways. So you could type in here, clip art, for example, and it will give you some answers from the database that exists. Or if you're really stuck and there's nothing there, you can, fill this for me. Yeah, so that's that piece. So over here in the work area, we basically have this turtle. And the turtle is the main player, the main character. And it's that turtle that you're going to teach. The turtle is very smart, just doesn't know an awful lot, to tell you the truth. So sometimes you just have to teach it things, but it does know some things. So let's just see. I'll put my cursor in the command center. And if I start typing a command, the autocomplete comes up and I could choose forward or continue typing or do the short form, forward 100. And when I do that and press forward or press enter, that turtle moves forward 100 turtle steps. Similarly, I can type, back. As soon as I start typing, you can see it. I'll use the short form, back 200, and that turtle will move back 200. I could do forward 130, right 90, all in one line. And if I press enter, you can see what'll happen. We'll do it very quickly, very quickly. So I'm actually just going to let me put a wait right in here. Wait, I'll make it wait 5/10 of a second. So you can go back up into the lines that you've written already, because this isn't the writing of procedures. Like I said, it's a scratch pad. So now when I press, it'll take that half a second pause before it turns right 90. Now I'll ask it to put its pen down so it can draw for me. And again, when I start typing, it'll give me the clues, PD. And now if I move my cursor back up to this line that I had and press enter, it'll do what it's told, do what it's asked to do. And if I type home down here, it will send that turtle to its home position, which is mathematically speaking 0, 0 on your screen. Now, I left the line because the pen's down. And so I can say CG. That will actually send the turtle home where it already is and clear the graphics at the same time. If I say PU for pen up, that lifts that turtle's pen up and you're back sort of the way it was, the state it was in the beginning. So then the challenge, I can give you some challenges. I'm just going to delete all this. Or maybe I should leave it there for your reference. I wonder how I would make a square or a dashed line. Any thoughts how to make a square?
Peter, I was thinking perhaps forward, making a right turn. Again, forward, making a right turn, and then somehow putting that in repetition. This is Daniel speaking.
Okay, so let's try that. PD for pen down, so we draw a line. And I'm just going to get rid of this because it's in my way. And now I'll do forward. I'm actually going to give it teach you a new command. Repeat 4 times because I happen to know, and this is not what I would do with kids. I would not move so quickly as we're going to move today, but that's the nature of the beast today. So we'll do that. So I'll do forward, whoops, right 90, and then do a little wait in here so that it waits before it turns. Okay, so it's going to do whatever's in the square brackets, and those square brackets are right up by your return key. And so we'll say repeat 4 times, forward 100, right 90, wait 5. Okay, I'm just, Heather, if you only have one button, your resolution on your screen might be not what you'd like. So you might want to use control minus sign a couple of times to reduce your screen resolution, or to increase your screen resolution by making your, and then make sure your window's filling your whole screen. And I'll just hope that works. Something I've run across before. Okay, so something interesting here, and I'm not going to go into it too much, but this is the total turtle trip theorem. If the turtle starts out with a position and a heading and goes around, finishes something and finishes up the same heading position, it's done a total turtle trip. And I have stories on my blog about that with grade 2s and how they did that. Because 4 times 90 is 360, you see. Total turtle trip theorem. I could set C to a different color. I could say red. It's going to turn that turtle red. I can say CG. I can now have it do that square again in red this time. I could have it down here, and I could have it. I could make it turn right 10, and I could have it do that square again by clicking up on that line. I can make it go faster by taking out that weight or reducing the weight. Have it turn right 10 again. Back up here. Right 10 again. So on. So you can see how you can sort of get into the artistic sides of this and how you do things. So I'm going to CG, and I know I'm going quickly. So if you're trying to follow along, as I said, it's a challenge, but the deal is we're in these circumstances we're in, and it's kind of necessary to fly along here. I just copied and pasted this in. I'll just paste this in the chat too in case you want to use it. So what I've done here, we've got repeat 20 times, everything that's in the square bracket. So let's see what happens. Nice. It would be even nicer if I actually made the pen size bigger. So I'm going to set the pen size to 3, just to make it a little fatter. I'll execute that line again.
So there's a question from Trish, which there are no silly questions, Trish. Is there a list of these commands? That's a really excellent question.
It certainly is.
Peter can show you that.
This here.
Saving.
Yeah, so
Good.
there's a list. There's a help thing here, and there's lists here. There are, so you can drive in that way. From the home page, you can go to the help, the user guides, and you'll find a list of primitives there. Okay. So there's lots of resources. Yep.
It's hard to see your mouse right now.
Can't see my mouse. Oh, why is it still carrying on?
It's small.
Can I say something, Peter?
Is small.
Sure.
Oh, that's just me. I had my view option set wrong.
Michael.
Yeah, so there are lots of resources on the home page of linkscoding.club. On the right side, look for the word help. It's on the far right side, and then there are user guides.
Yeah, that's where
and
I was
there's lots of user guides. Oh, Peter's right there. And if you go into the theme-based ones, scroll up a bit, Peter. The quick theme-based activity cards. There's 7 different ones in English and 3 en français. So these are basically hand-holding recipe guidebooks. So you can't go wrong. You won't fall off the ledge and be in a bad spot. All the words, which are primitives, are explained in these. And then if you really wanted to look at all of them, right at the bottom of the screen, there's a list of links primitives. Right there, yeah. So I think today just follow Peter.
Hey, this is just an overview, folks, because honestly, we just you know, we're just limited with our time, and we know that many of you are you know, absolute beginners. So you have to rely on the fact that there are all those resources available to you. Yeah. So thanks, Michael, for pointing that out. As I say, this is an overview, so grab the big picture as best you can.
And a question came in about whether more than one student can collaborate at the same time on a program. Not yet. That is in our list for development.
Hey, Daniel, do me a favor.
Oh.
Drop your chat to all panelists and attendees so we can all see your questions, because your questions are good and everybody might be thinking the same thing. So this is on a list for a future version. It's naturally, you know me well enough. That's my passionate one right there.
And so one of the things.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So people have been asking about that classroom space or club team space that they can create. So students will be able to work on something and then pass it into a space where other students could then take it and edit it. So there is a handoff collaborative spirit around it too. I just wanted to make people aware of that.
Absolutely. As an educator, you'll be able to set up your own club or school or class or whatever you'd like to call it, and invite your students to that. And then your students will have their own accounts and their stuff will be saved in as my projects in their my project space. But that will be within a walled garden of the classroom that you set up, for sure. Mm-hmm. And when anybody else opens up their project, a shared, like, or if you share it differently with that share button that I showed you, when they open it, it will open. So if Brenda made a project and I open it, because she shared it with me, it will make a copy of her project. I can do a remix, build on it, and save it, and hers is not affected. So it's not the kind of collaboration. I mean, it's a great kind of collaboration, but it's one kind of collaboration. It's not simultaneous in the same project. Yeah. Cool.
And you can download the projects. There was another question about saving to the cloud. Yeah, earlier versions of this called Microworld EX was not used in the cloud, but this one is cloud-based.
Well, it'll open in the cloud. Like if it's saved, it will open in the cloud.
So the question was manual to cloud saving only, question mark.
I don't know what manual means.
In other words,
it seems to me that we have to manually clear. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, there's no autosave. Right.
Okay, no autosave. There you go. I was looking for that floppy disk, folks.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking for the tape drive. So, yeah, keep those questions coming because they're all practical questions. And I'm just playing around with my code here.
Ooh, pretty. Very nice.
So you can see there's a repeat inside a repeat. But if I type the words, if I type CG here now and type square, it'll tell me it doesn't know how to square. So a poor little beast doesn't know, but it can learn. So over here is where you teach it new words in the procedure pane. And so you start a procedure by starting with the word to, and then whatever word you want, and it has to end with end on a separate line altogether. And then in the middle of the sandwich or the burger or whatever you want to think about is where you would put the instructions. So in this case, we'll make a square, forward 100, right 90. And, you know, a little bit of a weight just to make it work. And now, when I type square, it will do that for me. So it's essentially learned a new word because I, the student, taught it the new word. Yeah. So now, and those of you who've used this before, I'm going to ask you to, give some wait time just for the other folks to think a little bit. How would I make a triangle? Type some answers in the chat there. To triangle. And so repeat how many. This is logo.
I was going to just write that. It is logo.
It is logo.
A version of logo.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the challenge is, Peter, again, I'll put it in the chat. What you would like people to suggest? How are we going to code a triangle?
Yeah. So how many sides should I make that? That's kind of an obvious answer. How about 3? Oops. How about 3? That sounds good. And then go forward some distance. Doesn't really matter how much. And then the challenge is right here.
Depends on what type of triangle you want to make.
What do I make for it?
Okay, did you hear that, Peter? Someone suggested, go ahead and say that again.
Sorry, it was Karen. It said depends on what type of triangle you're looking to make.
That's correct. I'm making an equilateral triangle.
Okay, then you're going to want to go forward. Then you're going to want to turn 300 degrees.
300?
Well, I'm going to assume that it's got to make the 300 to be able to create your 60, if I recall correctly. Am I correct on that?
Well, you'll find out.
We're going to test it out.
Triangle, not triangle. Triangle. Let me put a weight in here so we can watch it do its stuff. Where's my cursor? There it is.
No? Okay.
We have another suggestion, another couple of suggestions in the chat.
I kind of thought.
Someone thought 60. Someone thought repeat 3, forward 100, right 120.
Okay, let me try the 60.
Someone thought 45.
Okay. So if I were with students doing this, I would be asking questions. We don't have time to have the dialogue necessarily. Why would you say that? Why would you say 60? And I'm going to, guess an answer from you because the inside angle of an equilateral triangle is 60. That's what I've been taught. But in fact, we're dealing with turtle geometry. So it actually has to turn, as somebody suggested, 120 in order to leave the 60 on the inside. And so that's one of the beautiful things if you do teach math. That's one of the beautiful things about turtle geometry versus Cartesian geometry, right? So it's 3/10 seconds. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I was just going to say it's good for teaching external angles to the internal angle.
Right. And so, kids get up on the, kids will be in the gym or standing up and they'll be doing turtle geometry as one kid instructs the other. And, so it really, Seymour's idea was that it really makes it syntonic, fits with the body. And kids can really feel the math that way. Now, again, for those of you who aren't math folks, let's just remember we're looking at some of the computational thinking kinds of things here. So we've got, breaking a project into parts. We've got parsing things out, doing repeats. These are all elements of coding and computational thinking. We've got a square up there. If we want it to do something like many squares, and again, that's just or the flower or whatever you want to call it. I like flower personally. You could have it repeat some number of times. I'll say 18 square, right, and I'm going to tell you, and again, it's not what I would normally do, square, and I'm going to take the weight out of here, because it'll go too slowly if I do it, the weights in two places. Square, weight, right 20, weight 3 at this point now, and do end here. So now what's going to happen is 18 times it's going to do a square, and then turn right 20, square, right 20, square, right 20, square, right 20, and 20 times 18 is 360. There's that turtle trip. 3 times 120, 360. Well, let me do a CG first, and I'll do flower now.
Now, I want to reassure the Microworlds Junior people that you will be able to do everything that you see here. You just won't be using text when you learn how to do it. So all of what you're learning here is going to make it a piece of cake to see Microworlds Junior. It's my favorite piece of software for primary students. It's amazing.
You can add a button in here. And there's a button now I have on my screen, and I can use that button. I can right click it and call it flower. It's just a word in English, just a label. But when I click that button, I can have it do any of the procedures that I've written. I'll choose flower and say apply. And then when I click this, it will do that. So again, you can build this user interface, which is part of the whole programming world as well, right? And I can change things up now. I've got these things here and this here, and now I can start playing differently. So if I want to go in here and set the color to some random number between 0 and 140, I can do that. So now when I CG, I can flower, and it will do, you know, random colors.
So a question from Tom. He's playing around with hexagons. He's got some text he's putting in there for you, some code he's putting in the chat for you, but he's wondering, how do you speed up the build of that flower? His is taking much longer than yours to build. Now he has a weight of 3, I notice, in his hexagon code. And that's what you had as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so if I still have that in my, if I still have the weight in my square as well, now it's going to be more painful because it's going to draw each one like that. So I sort of jumped ahead and jumped quickly with that. That's why I took it out of the square. I could take it out of either place, but if I have a double weight, it's going to be messy. So let me just do it now with the way I've just done it. I've taken it out of, I've left it in square, but taken it out of flower. So does that help?
He's going to try it, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Yeah, he says perfect.
Okay. And we could carry on. And the set of cards called Geometric Fun are a place where you would want to go. It's a great place to start if you're a beginner with links for both geometry and to learn some of the programming skills. And another great one to start with is create an interactive birthday card or an interactive greeting card, or that's a set of cards that we have on in the place where Michael showed you as well on the links user guide page. So those are very good.
And like we said, there, because we're going to point you to where our recorded Code to Learn at Home sessions are, you could actually give this out in your virtual classroom to students, the recording, and have them do a Father's Day card, or, you know, and be learning along with them right now, even to share back what they make, their art.
Clickable buttons on the screen, so the mouse input would trigger. Yes, you'll see this in a second, actually. So when I open an existing project, this is what you see. And if you were to send your project to somebody, well, it depends on how you send it, but they can open it up in the edit mode like this. So basically, I'm just going to really fly through this little piece here because I do want to show you some other samples, because I think it's important that you understand the breadth and depth, because we're coming from many different grade levels, many different experience levels, and many different subject areas. So it's important that you see the breadth of things. So in here we have, so if I type square here now, it'll be different. I switched over to a different project that I've already pre-created. So for example, here now, I've got a variable in my square. And so what I need is to put an input in for that variable when I issue the command. So square 30, it'll do it a size 30 square. Let me set my pen size up a little bit so it's nice and thick. So, and if I change this now to square 100,
oops,
it'll do that. Okay, so that's using a single variable. And basically what it does is when I issue the command square 100, it'll go forward, it'll 4 times go forward whatever size I input and turn right 90. Okay. Clear all graphics. I made a button for clear all graphics up there. So basically, I have a procedure somewhere called clear all graphics that I wrote on perhaps a different page, and I'll show you that in 2 seconds. You can have different procedure panes and different pages that are demonstrated in this project I made. But if I make a spiral, I have 2 variables in this particular case. I'm only changing one of them each time. So this time when I say spiral some number, it'll go forward the step, right the angle, then it'll go forward the step plus 5 and the same angle, and then it'll do it again and do it again and do it again, adding 5 to the step each time. So if I say spiral 0, 50, well, why is it doing that? Oh, well, I know why. I have my weight in there, but look what's happening. It's just going and going and going and not stopping. And that's not what I want. So I'm going to stop it by clicking the stop button here. And
some debugging has to happen, Peter.
It does. And my grade 2s loved feeding their bugs they found to the big paper mache turtle I built for them. So now I'm going to just put in a conditional. If the step equals 100, then I want everything to stop. So let me clear all graphics. Let me change the weight to 2 just to speed it up a little bit. So now when it hits 100, it stops. So it goes 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, up and does 100. Okay, so clear all graphics. And if I do spiral 150 this time, it's going to start by doing a step of 1, and the next one will be 6, the next one will be 11 and 16. What do you think is going to happen this time?
We don't have any guesses yet.
That's right, it's not going to stop. The 50 refers to the angle of the turn. So, so it goes forward a step and then turns right 50 degrees. So right here, you'll see that. Right angle. So whenever I do spiral number, it's going spiral, step, and the angle. So if I say 1, the first step is 1, and the angle is 50. And I've kept the angle at 50. I haven't changed it every time it issues spiral. And it doesn't stop because it never hits 100. So I actually have to change this to greater than 100 or something similar to that. Well, yeah, or exactly like that. Now it'll stop. So, okay, so And you can have multiple pages. Remember I said you could add page here? So you can add lots of pages. So I've done that. And they are up here by this, this symbol. So I've got spirals here. Or sorry, I've got pages up here that I've made. And just cycles through them all. Okay. And I'm going to go to spirals with beads. And I just happen to make more procedure panes as well. I like to keep my pages in this for this kind of project because it's complex. I've made different pages with different procedure panes. So if I go here and do that, and I think my pen's down, I'm not going to even try and unpack this too much. And now it's doing this kind of spiral. So I've made it, you know, I'm just increased the complexity a fair bit. Is my pen down? Let me clear the graphics. Oh, I did this before. There's a bug. Not a bug, but it's a, I try to put pen down. It's not putting the pen down because the first command in the, oops, sorry, in the spiral that I'm issuing is pen up. So I'm going to take that out of there. And you can see, sorry, I'll just show you in this button, do the deal. It's doing a procedure called do the deal. And do the deal is down here. Spiral A, 1075. So I know I jumped ahead with simplicity to complexity. Where is my pen down? There, I forced it now. Again, let's try it. It's much prettier with the pen down, I think. So you can get into these, you know, different kinds of patterning and so forth. Let me go to dancing spirals and my page dancing spirals. And let's see what happens when I do spiral dance. Okay, it's now doing just circles. It's pretty straightforward each way. So you get multiple turtles doing stuff. I'll stop this because the dance procedure is calling this procedure move. I want to do move to now. So it's going to do differently. And I'm not going to try and unpack this just because of the amount of time. So I'm not too worried. Set up. And I'll just go into each turtle and tell it to do move to instead.
So we have an interesting analogy in the chat, Peter.
Yeah.
John's saying, so the side panel where the pages are is acting like a library. Is that how you would describe it?
You could, for sure. It's a library of procedures particular to this project. Yeah.
Right.
They don't carry from project to project.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now when I spiral dance, I can have it do these nice things. And I could stop all at any point and do spiral dance right from there. Changing the background color, changing the color of the turtle. So kids can get into lots of different stuff. Okay, so that's a bit of a fly through of some of the geometric aspects. Let me jump back to all projects and just give you some samples of other kinds of things. I want to show Jennifer's jumping.
Mm-hmm. I'm just listening to the chat, you know, watching the chat rather, and yeah. And people are kind of thinking about how they would be organizing this. So Daniel is saying, oh, he's thinking about building a library of pages, just so that people, because it's per project, you know, where you're building this. And then Michael had a suggestion of like you could also just remix projects. So if things are labeled properly, kids will be able to find where they know they had parts of that code, right? And then just edit a new version and rename it. And
you can do that. And that, go Go ahead.
Sorry, I just think it's good that people are thinking ahead to how they might do that. So I just wanted your opinion. How do you go about it?
I think if I were building lots of, you know, I'm not sure about this. I think in future versions, there could be, you know, ways to manage that within the software. But at this point, I think either just know where the stuff is and go and get it from that project, or just create a Google Doc or a Google library or a, you know, Google site or something of that nature where you could where your, you know, common code could live. One of the challenges, of course, is if people aren't documenting. Jennifer didn't document here, so it's really nice if you have that documentation. You probably saw it in the spirals one where we had the semicolon and gray text. That stuff doesn't get executed. It's there as documentation, so it's very good to have, you know, documentation.
Mm-hmm. It allows comments and suggestions and things like that. It helps teach through using your program. Mm-hmm. This is going to be great feedback to get from these project leads, right, around their experiences.
Yeah.
So
and
video
believe
games.
Me, there's a million. Yeah, there's a million feature sets we could envision. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So a video game here, you know, this young woman has used the forever command. She's got on touch, so using the on touch command. So if it touches the boulder, you lose your life and the numbers change and you get the error message saying game over, that kind of thing, right? So all projects again. Learner mode, here's some of the other things. So let's do the on your mark, get set, go. So similar kind of thing in game design. Here it's just on your mark, go. So this is the documentation of the
The winner is Paul.
You can see here they're using the coordinates, X and Y coordinates, rather than right left, because that's sometimes suitable to do that. They've changed the things on the turtle, the costumes on the turtle, which is something I really didn't show you, because you can do that. So let me just actually create another project and do that very quickly. So I can add in my clip art and my nature. Whoops, daisy, clip art, animations. So there's a links down here, 20, 21, 22, 23. So I can, there's my turtle. Let me turn it to the right, because if I don't, the turtle will go north. And then set shape, 20, 21, 22, 23. Now that changes. And then if I say forever, go forward 1, wait 1, we'll see what happens. So you can see it's pretty slow, so that's not going to work too well. So maybe go forward 5, wait 2. Okay, let me try that again. So you can see you can play around with the animation. Obviously, you can add in more clip art, background. Backgrounds come down here now. That's 83. Oh, I need a new turtle. Add a new turtle. There's the turtle. I'll click on that turtle to make the command go to that turtle, because if I don't, it'll go to the turtle I last clicked, unless I address the turtle by name. Hey, T2, set the shape to 82. There's the background there. And I can make that a little bigger. Set size, normal size is 40. I need a little bigger, so I'll do 60. That's a little bigger. Now I'll tell it to stamp that image on the background, which it's done. There it is. You can see my turtle. This is still my turtle right here. And then I can right click that turtle because I don't need it anymore. I just use it as a paintbrush. And there's my lynx now traveling across the snow. Okay. So that's a pretty big leap there. Okay, 11:37. Okay, so let me stop this. What I'm going to do is I just want to show you a couple of things. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and find the other page I want to show you. Oh, I know where it is. Hang on. Share screen, and I'm just going to show you a very quick thing here. So this is an interactive choice grid. We learned how to do these a couple of weeks ago from a very famous educator. Oh, I think she's on the call. Melanie Mulcaster and Tina Zita. So this is basically a Google slide. And so we want to embed spirals inside, a common, huge, curricular base of knowledge. So when kids learn spirals, we don't want them just learning it in links. We want them to understand it with throwing a football or cutting them or drawing them or making potato spirals. Or some kids might actually want to get into the Fibonacci sequence and understand about drawing spirals, bigger. And this is a little video that because of time. We'll share this link as well with you, but so there's ways to do it microbit, coding it with links as you see. Some kids might want to braid a bracelet, so they can do that. Other kids might want to watch, to learn about the Fibonacci sequence.
The sequence begins with the numbers 1, based on Fibonacci spirals of 55, 34.
Might want that. Then over here on page 2 of the slideshow, you could ask kids to share their thoughts in a Google Doc. What do you learn? What do you wonder? And encourage them to comment on each other's work, or share their thoughts in Padlet if they prefer to do things that way. Or they could, if Flipgrid's allowed in your district or whatever, you could go there and
Okay, you've found out a lot about spirals. Now I need to know what you learned.
And they could go off and drop a little video in. So I just wanted to share that with you because it's a way of thinking about embedding this knowledge into a broader place. Okay, can code to learn. This is another place where you can get information about how to use links. You can go off to our webinar offerings and see what's up, or you could, so that's where our offerings are. So this is for next week, for example. You could watch the recordings that are clickable from there as well. You can go and go to either English or French here and see what's available in terms of learning links. There's all your activity cards again in there. How to create secret codes. That's a great webinar that we do as well, that Michael does and others. So lots of information. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing, turn on my camera, and just see what kinds of questions there might be now, because that's a huge flying through the countryside for that.
So a comment from, I think it's Karen, and she said, it's going to be a lot of language to learn for students. And then what Michael replied there was that it's amazing that with 25 commands, there's so much versatility of what they can do.
So when we started the YMCA Academy for kids who were challenged in schools in various ways, it was for secondary school. And my very first English class that I taught, I actually taught them Logo, this language. And I did that for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted them to really, think about their own thinking. I want them to have success differently. And I wanted them to understand that syntax was relevant. And they kind of fell in love with it. And, their eyes lit up when they realized, oh, okay, periods, capitals. Okay, I realize, if you don't leave a space in Logo, okay. So they got it. So it was pretty amazing that way. And the interesting thing that Papert would have said as well is about Mathland. If you put, and he put it this way, if you grew up in France or in Italy, you would learn Italian or French. If you grow up in Mathland, you would just learn math. If you grow up in coding land, you'll just learn the language. It's just something that sort of gets uncovered differently. Eh? It's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. And then I think you kind of went over this, but it might be worth repeating.
Probably kind of quickly.
Yeah, because Michael's added here that it's a great storytelling tool. So what we saw a lot of was the geometry and the math. We kind of see it in themes, right? And had we been face to face today, we would have talked about it with you in themes. Yeah. There is that mathematical and geometry, that kind of piece. Then we see there's sort of some students who really love the video game piece. So they're doing the coding in the background around animations and counting and, game mechanics kind of thing. Then you can use it purely as a storytelling tool. Where kids are either for any domain, they're creating a story. What am I missing, Peter?
Simulations, working
right.
ecosystem or birthday matching simulation. Yeah, there's so many, it is a programming environment. So again, as Brenda said, we were kind of restricted the way we had to do it today. We did want to really do it the way she suggested so that you could follow your own passions. But you have the access now to the resources to go and look and go, oh yeah, story making, right. Because my very first time using Logo back in the early days was for having kids create interactive stories. So they made choices on different pages as to what the story would do. And now, of course, the software is much stronger in terms of animation and graphics and such. Yeah.
And I think we did talk about them being able to bring in their own graphics and backgrounds.
Yes, you can.
Sounds. Yep.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure people know that.
In terms of the microbit stuff, yeah, we also run microbit workshops. The microbits do not get controlled from links. They're done through either MakeCode or Python or whatever. But we actually have held back on connecting it to the microbit at this point because we really want kids to go deeply with links coding. We know what happens in other environments. We've seen it for years with Scratch, and we see it with microbits as well to some degree. That we're really encouraging going beyond, rock paper scissors or what are the other ones that are so common? Just because step counter and stuff may be a great place to start. In fact, probably is a great place to start. But we're really looking to go deeply after having this around now for 40 years or so. And that's one of the reasons that we're happy to have all of you, really strong educators doing this. Yeah, okay. I think it's over to you.
Links is like sand at the beach. No kids are bored at the beach. I like that. Yeah, it's a nice way to say it. And in the work we've done in a more ongoing fashion with some of the coding around beating, what teachers have really liked is the fact that the text-based approach actually slows the thinking down a little bit compared to these same teachers who've used the block-based coding, where students are grabbing bits of code and not really knowing exactly what's going on. This has in their experience anyway, really slowed it down, kids understanding more, a little bit more deeper thinking around it, and transfer for sure. So we're excited to hear your experiences and your feedback on that piece too.
Yeah, I wonder, would Bonnie pop the link, if you can find it, Bonnie, into the chat for the webinars that Ruth is running through Nelson Math. You know, it's going to happen next Wednesday night, related to coding, beating, and Indigenous ways of knowing mathematics. It's an absolutely brilliant series. We mentioned it at the beginning briefly again, but and we didn't obviously get a chance to show all the stuff that we'd love to show and celebrate right now, but we will going forward. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonder, should we jump back in for our last?
I think so.
You good if I share? Okay.
Brenda, can I say one last thing before you go into this activity? I just wanted to remind people that partly what we're interested in tracking as people start to do their projects is our own learning. So, you know, pay attention to what your starting point is and what you're learning along the way. It will be really cool to be able to look back and say, you know, at the beginning, I only knew this tiny amount, or I knew nothing. And this is where my own learning has progressed. So your learning as teachers is as important to us to track as anything that you might be doing with the students.
Absolutely. And isn't it great that we've got the software company along with us here? So providing this for Michael will just make things better, kind of. Who knows where we'll end up? Okay. So here's what we were thinking about in order to kind of, what we know for some of you, this is brand new, and that will have been a little bit of a whirlwind, and it might feel overwhelming at this point. But our suggestion is just to let it wash over you, because at this point, we're just starting into the project. We're starting to play. It's a sandbox. We don't expect a lot happening right now other than you planning ahead, as Lindy mentioned earlier. So we wanted to get a chance to meet each other and have a taste of what's to come. If you're a Microworlds Junior person, everything you saw today can be done with Microworlds Junior. So you now have some skills that are going to transfer. You will love it. I can be sure of that. I can assure you of that. So we thought maybe what we could do now is go back to that slide deck. And I have removed all of the extras that were in the notes that you didn't need to see. But maybe if you wouldn't mind taking some time to finish up that slide and provide some reflections. It might be that you want to, write in there, I used to think, now I think. You might have some thoughts there. You may have questions and wonderings that you could put in the notes section of your slide. You could go back and share some comments, as some of you already have, on the work of others and the projects of others, to kind of see the depth and the breadth of the projects going forward. This is really important to us because we know we might be in the situation where we're doing virtual follow-ups, and we want to be able to, it's kind of like a formative piece for us. We want to see what your questions are and kind of know what we might move forward to. So Peter's put it in the chat. That's great. If we could go back over there and spend, let's see, 7 minutes or so, and then we'll come back at just at 5. Oh boy, we really actually don't have that much time. So just take a few minutes to go into that space and do a quick reflection. And then we want to make sure that you know that the resources you need from now on are in this slide deck. And we'll come back in a minute or two.
And if you want to, grab the mic and ask questions at this point, you can feel free to do that as well, because the slide deck will be there for you whenever.
Mm-hmm.
What's great is that we know what your projects are mostly about, but you have not been able to share with each other previously. So the slide decks that you're now filling in are also going to be a great resource for each of us so that we can look at each other's projects.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just, flipping through the slides because that's fun. So Sarah, Lena, Bert, and Kim, have you been visiting the Nelson series that we just spoke of? Because you would really love it, I think.
No, we haven't at the moment, but that's definitely something to think about. Thanks.
Great resource too, because they're all recorded and they really look at, analyzing the kids, what the kids are thinking. It's a huge part of, obviously, of what they're doing. One thing we didn't make explicit, but I was reminded of it by looking at another slide, is that we really view links as a beautiful bridge between block-based coding like Scratch and things like JavaScript or Python. So it would be interesting for the folks who were asking about Python earlier to see if that is a good thing to say, and if that's the case. And for those of you who are not familiar with Seymour Papert, if you are familiar with Scratch, it was developed by Mitchell Resnick at MIT, and Mitchell was a student of Seymour Papert's.
And I'm just reflections are starting to come in here, so that's really nice to see. Some on the slides, some in the notes, so either way is good. Mel saying she has a better vision of where they might be heading, which is good. And this is part of the reason we wanted you to see other people's projects and to see kind of a playful overview. Because once you see the software, and I know you Microworlds Junior people will get your chance a little later, but it may cause you to tweak some of the thinking that you've been doing already. And as Sam says here on her reflection, she's happy that she has the summer to play with the software because she didn't realize how robust it is. And a good thing, a good note here, I will need to continually remind myself that the software is a tool, not the focus of the project. So that's a really good reflection to have after this.
Mm-hmm. So Michael just wants to ask you a question, if you don't mind, folks.
Yeah, so Peter mentioned it, and maybe you saw it on the homepage of links. So obviously, the links and the tool and the guidebooks are in English and French, but we have an Ojibwe version, and we have some resources in Ojibwe. And I think Peter mentioned it, where we've begun the work on a Micmac version for students and teachers in Atlantic Canada, mostly. but I'm really interested in trying to find someone to do a Mohawk version, which would be great for communities in Quebec and Ontario. So if anybody on this Zoom knows a teacher or even just an adult who has strong language skills in Mohawk, they don't have to be a professional coder. They just have to understand they'd have to translate words that you saw today, like forward, back, right, wait, set the size. So again, they don't have to be an expert in coding themselves. So put it in the chat or follow up with Peter or Brenda, and we'll take it from there. Thanks.
Thank you. So there are a couple of questions to the panelists here. And so we'll stick around for a few minutes after we stop the recording and try and help folks out with their particular questions related to links.
Okay. So we're down to our last 2 minutes. Peter, should we come back to the other deck?
Yes, please.
All right. So I think I'm still sharing it, actually. Reflections, yes. Okay, so we just want to recap because first of all, thanking everyone for, oh my gosh, what did I just do there? Sorry, give me 2 seconds. There.
Okay, and on to the next one. There we
go.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that you know, and you will get the slide deck. We can send that out to you in an email to make sure you've got this slide deck. But on the reference, the resources page that Lindy referred to earlier, where we're keeping everything on the OTF Connections website, there are lots of links there. So if you start from there, you'll get to things. But also Links Coding Club for many of the resources you've seen before. Can Code to Learn is also a space where all those beautiful project cards are, and some videos of what I believe as well. So lots of different ways to get at the same kind of information. And then codetolearn.ca at home are where all those videos are that we've been sort of curating. We've been doing sessions and recording them and posting them. So they're also a resource.
And upcoming webinars posted every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Some sessions are still, we're going to go right till probably mid-June at least. We don't have our end date yet. But they're there as well. And there's some microbits things on there too, that those of you who are interested, because I've seen a bit of that going around the chat, there's resources there for you too.
Okay, so we'll just, I'll do this one then, and
sure.
Yeah, so there's where you can find us anytime. At coding_links, we'll get a hold of Michael. At Can Code to Learn is sort of the official Twitter handle for us. We all look at that, and then Brenda and myself, and we're going to use that hashtag going forward if you choose. Yeah.
I'm just going to pipe up and say you all have my email address because I was the person who sent you the very last reminder of the meetings today. This is Lindy, by the way. And I cannot answer any of your coding questions, but I definitely can answer your questions around how the project rolls out and what the timing is and what the expectations are. So truly, if you have any of those questions at all, don't hesitate to be in touch. And we're here to support you all the way through.
All right, I think that is an excellent way to close off. Lindy, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone for giving up your Saturday morning. I know how tired you are at the end of these weeks, given all the extra circumstances that you're dealing with. So many, many thanks. We are really excited to, once we all have some more energy in the summer, to be meeting with you next on August 20th. So please put that in your calendars. And we will also post this recording. So if you need to review anything, it'll be there. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thanks for coming.
Take care, everyone.